What's up? Last call. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for clicking. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Would appreciate it. Trying to grow this, you know. But anyway, enough with the small talk today. Throughout some of the discussions that I've been having, and especially around this time of year, October, if you haven't seen any of my uh, uploads and whatnot, I do like Halloween. Sometimes I go crazy over it, sometimes I don't. But of course, it's a good time to talk about some of the movies, some of the corny movies that you like, or even some of the well-made movies that you like as well. One movie that keeps popping up, throughout the canon of horror, which in some regards, rightfully so, is this movie that I'm not even going to say the name that you see in the title there too. And I make this video today for a very specific reason, for a couple very specific questions. Those that know, I'm going to try to go through some of the background. I'm going to be very careful with some of the information. Number one, because the titling and some of the labels are just not welcome by YouTube to speak about freely. Secondly, I'm conflicted because I don't want to give more notoriety to this franchise and this individual um, uh, who has made this work, but also has a very sordid history um, himself. And we're not talking, I don't think I'd be up here talking about somebody who's rumored, um, somebody who's only been charged with, or just guilty in the public opinion. I'm speaking about an individual, and I'll show a little bit. I'll call up the Wikipedia page on him. I'm talking about an individual who's been convicted for, I don't know how to say this in YouTube terms, for SA, for the offense on a minor. And you know what? He's come out and tell his story. But I think, right off the bat, I'm going to put this gentleman's name in because I want his name more represented for his bravery and what he's gone through in the story he told and prevailed, rather than put the other person's name there. I wouldn't be doing it if it were a secret case or he didn't have any interviews out there or anything. But so often the victims are overshadowed, um, by the spectacle of the bigger names and the other work and stuff like that as well. So I'm going to take off this picture because that's as much as I want to relate to that right now. If we have to go back, we'll go back. But just to let you know what I'm talking about, and those that are in the know, that you're in the know. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up and making a video about it is, like I said, it's a time of year. It's Halloween. I'm a little bit of a Halloween junkie. Not as crazy as some other people I know, but I do enjoy the time. I watch horror movies year round, and I especially go a little extra to watch some of the quirky ones or the unpopular ones or just the silly ones during the course of October that I probably wouldn't give a chance during the rest of the year. And I think over the past few years, I've come to resent this individual, him and his work being pulled up and celebrated every year. All right. I'm going to skim through some of the details here, but this person, as you know, and I think you could probably see there if you zoom in, but I'll just put his name in one time. It's a person by the name of Victor Salva, or, I got to change something. I think I said Silva in one of my discussions with him or whatnot. But doesn't matter anyway. This begs the question before I go into discuss and speaking with many other people, they ask the question, do you separate the art from the artist? Of course, there are many examples of this throughout history modern and history as well, in many types of art forms, even in terms of ethics, with in terms of electricity and even the Alexander Graham Bell and their inventions. Even the popular movie, was it 2023, Oppenheimer, the conundrum around um, the creation of nuclear energy as well, right? But anyway, this keeps coming up, and I'm very bothered with this. And since I'm starting up my little YouTube page, I decided to make a quick video on this and lay out some of the facts and let people weigh in and decide. Because some of the people that I still follow today, because they concentrate on horror movies and whatnot, they still kind of prop him up and dare I say celebrate, but perpetuate and display some of their work as though their background doesn't really play a factor. And I think in a lot of cases it does. All right. So this person, Victor Salva, I'm just reading from the Wikipedia, a few notes here, is an American film director, screenwriter, and it says right here, convicted offender, the self-described protege, which is also problematic, protege of Francis Ford Coppola. So he, with his background, has been funded by the Coppola dynasty, let's say. And you know them from The Godfather and many other great films too. All right. Says this person is also best known, and where I guess I took notice, from the Jeepers Creepers series 1, 2, and 3. Just a little bit it says about his conviction. It's from 1988. And the victim was a 12-year-old boy by the name there. And I'm going to take him away there. I just think it's important that you know his name. And he hasn't hid his story. I think it may, because of his age, took him a while to come out and whatnot, of what he's been a victim of and who he was a victim to actually tell his story. So good on you for being able to tell your story, Nathan, and the getting it out there and speaking against the big Hollywood machine, because it's not just this guy. Any other thing, I guess, other than the Catholic Church, he'd be out of business, right? We just don't know why it's perpetuated in Hollywood and some of the film industry and what looks like the music industry too. Are we just to accept that these people do this sort of thing and they're granted a certain stem of leeway to be able to do these sort of things and still work? I mean, I don't know. And I'll be completely honest. When the movie Jeepers Creepers came out, I was a fan. I actually like Justin Long. One of my favorite Halloween movies is Drag Me to Hell. If you haven't seen it, it's an honorable mention there. But I think this is the movie that Justin Long would be introduced to me. And just in terms of old school movie writing and cinematography, Jeepers Creepers did a good job. And I didn't know the background of this person, but of course, years would go by. I mean, I liked it so much. I didn't really buy a whole bunch of movies and stuff at the time. I actually did purchase this movie back in the day. But as time would go on and information would be revealed, I had trouble enjoying this because of the past and what this series was built upon. So I often wonder if people have the same struggle to enjoy work despite knowing the troubled past and the atrocities of the director or the artist in mind, right? And again, the bigger argument is, can you separate art from the artist? But not only that, I think most people would say they can. I think for some people it's not a problem because out of sight, out of mind. But I think the bigger problem here is, can you be consistent so that you're not a hypocrite? You know, that your ideals and your ideology is not that of a hypocritical individual. And in some ways you would be if I go to condemn this, but maybe like Roman Polanski's work or I'm another artist that was called up is R. Kelly. If I was listening to his movies or music and whatnot as well too, um, or anything that he's touched or produced in the meantime. Bad choice of words there, I think. How much do you separate that stuff? Or if somebody's even convicted and they did their time, are they in the clear? Crimes, sort of like what this person has done, they don't necessarily get cured of that. So I don't even think that sort of thing applies to individuals like this. All right. Uh, Again, down here, it says that he's been charged, convicted. Um, it goes as far back. It goes as far back as 1988, but of course, it didn't start there, right? He also videotaped, some of the people, the underage people that he worked with. He was in possession there, it says, of child P. Um, though it was not publicized, and this was the problem too. This was not publicized or made public until 2006. So why did he get protection, first of all, after all these years? And I guess one of the reasons is he didn't really make it mainstream until Jeepers Creepers hit. All right. Protests against the film soon followed, including boycotts organized by Winters, the gentleman that one of his abusers or abusees, I guess you say it like that. Despite this, he has continued to work in the industry and made movies such as Powder, if you remember that movie. And was that the one that had, what's his name? Yeah, it had Jeff Goldblum. I think he had one that had, I see his face. I can't think of his name here. Shoot. Barbarino. I'm sorry. That's the only one. Barbarino. Friggin', what's his name? Quentin Tarantino movie. You know who we're talking about. But that guy, it's funny doing this. You can't remember simple things sometimes. Shit, now it's going to bother me. You know who I'm talking about. I'm just going to leave it off. And of course, when I shut this off, I'm going to be like, boom, that's his name. I might just look him up while I'm talking to you right now. But that is the big question for me. How do we excuse this? How do we separate the art from the artist? And this especially because of this time of year, do we just boycott his work? How do we get that out of the canon? All right. Here is something somebody has written. I like the title of it, if you could see it here. It says, "How on earth does Victor Salva keep getting work?" And this is a good question because, as I told you, he was known to be a protege of the Coppola clan, and they had funded his work even with his conviction as well. So Victor Salva, writer, all that kind of stuff. I'm just zooming through this while filming. He did what he did. Blah, 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 blah. It's possession, everything that I just told you here. Well, so the arrest happened before the dubbing was done for the film. Post-arrest victim. It was done. The work was actually done at Francis Ford Coppola's house. So you wouldn't say he just forked over a sum of money. He was very much involved in the production of this thing, which is a little troubling as well for you film buffs and a bit of myself too. How do you support somebody who has this sort of background? In a 1918 interview, Winters, remember Nathan Winters, claimed that during this time he was told that he would never work again in the business. So the guy, the victim, was ostracized and even more victimized, saying that he would never work in the business again if he came out and went public, against this damn near regime, right? He also claimed Francis Ford Coppola sued him for breach of contract, which means they tried to shut him up. And I guess Winters thought his integrity was valued more than that, and any condemnation or any legal proceedings to shut him up, to actually speak out against it for maybe his own sanity or the awareness to alert others to this sort of problem as well. Salvo was sentenced to 3 years in prison, but served only 15 months. In 1995, Salvo returned to filming. I know I keep switching the name to Silva and Salva. It's just maybe I'm just more familiar with the Silva name versus Salva. Returned to filmmaking with a sleeper hit, Powder, with the cast that included Mary Steenburgen, Jeff Goldblum. Winters protested outside the premiere of the film. Very ballsy, very, very good act. Good for you, man. Some might think the abuse victim picketing outside the movie premiere would dissuade people from giving Salva more work. But in 2001, Salva wrote and directed the minor hit Jeepers Creepers, which would go on to spawn sequels written and directed by him. Francis Ford Coppola served as executive producers for the first two Jeepers movies. Salva has also made other movies over the years, but these have received far less attention. Powder and that movie as well. So are we saying that maybe he's gotten less notoriety since maybe that's the industry and the public's idea of somewhat boycotting? Here are some of the that didn't actually give me as much information as I thought it would. I just saw it in there. I thought it might actually go a little deeper in it. But people here, he's a fucking monster, and he is. How does a arpist and PDF keep getting work in Hollywood? Yep. I don't know. Ants tries to answer, I don't know, but he stays busy. Just don't allow him to work on movies that have any kids in them. That's kind of a point there too, you know. Do you move on with restrictions? So my whole point with this is that I just keep seeing the movie come up, and some of the respected sites that I like, promptly kind of promote and provide a little bit of notoriety for this. In any cases of anybody that we don't agree with, do we maybe in a sense boycott, or do we maybe not give it attention? And I know I'm doing that today, but doing it with a very specific reason, and hope that maybe my words will maybe come to some sort of resolution, or some sort of solace for people that struggle with this issue as well, the larger issue of separating art from the artist. And I got to tell you, I really don't know what the answer is with this. At a time, I have enjoyed the movies, this person's movies. When I found out, I was really bothered, and I can't continue to support any of the works, even if it's free, even if it's streaming, even if it's on TV when I'm turning on the channels for anything as well. How do you people deal with this thing too, right? Again, I want to say hats off to this gentleman right here, Nathan Forrest Winters, for your bravery, for standing up to an entire industry being the victim of such ridiculous behavior, and behavior, quite frankly, that people have allowed over time. So good for you, and just the bigger cause, because we know when you stand up for stuff like that, it's not all about you, right? It's for the injustice that was served for you and maybe millions of people in thousands of different industries throughout the world. So we need more people like you to do that. And even if it did cost you a whole lot, your livelihood, and imagine how this guy was not 12 years old dealing with the whole thing, but definitely coming up as a young man, have a whole damn powerful industry tell you that you would never work again through no fault of your own. There's probably no worse helpless feeling than that this person has endured. So again, hats off to you. My hope doing this is not to be a contributor of the notoriety or perpetuate any of the work, but maybe to open up more discussions And maybe I have messaged some companies that started streaming this and asked them to reconsider, some of the work. But of course, I never got any sort of response of that as well. And I don't know, don't really expect to either. So if it's in your power and it's in your conscience to maybe speak out against, or maybe just ignore and do your own maybe kind of boycott of this sort of material for anybody like this, I definitely urge you to do so. All right, so boycott this school and appreciate your time. This is the last call. Feel free to like, subscribe, share. Definitely appreciate you stopping by today. Be good.